The rain had been falling for hours. Not a storm, not the kind of rain that lashes windows or shakes the roof. This was softer, a steady curtain of droplets tapping gently against the glass, as if reminding the world that time was moving, even if everything else had grown still. You notice it first, at the edge of your awareness, the faint, rhythmic patter that blends with the hush of the night. You tell yourself it's soothing, a background comfort. But the longer you listen, the more it begins to feel like a language. A slow, repetitive murmur, the kind you might hear if you pressed your ear against a wall and tried to catch the whisper of someone on the other side. Inside the house, everything is dim. The old wooden beams creak now and then, as if responding to the weather. The lamp in the corner hums faintly. Shadows drift across the walls in strange patterns, shaped by the flicker of water moving down the glass. You settle deeper into your chair, listening to the rain, watching the way droplets gather into lines and crawl downward like pale threads. The repetition lulls you, the endless cycle of drops forming, joining, sliding, disappearing, a loop that feels infinite. Somewhere in the distance, a door closes, not loudly, not rudely, just the kind of sound that blends with the weather if you aren't paying attention. You tell yourself it's nothing. A neighbor, perhaps, a gust of wind shifting the frame. Yet, as the sound fades, the rain seems to press closer, each drop heavier, each rhythm more insistent. The clock on the wall ticks slowly. A shadow shifts. The rain speaks. You stand, pacing lightly across the wooden floor. The boards answer with low sighs. Every step feels softer than it should, as though the house itself has grown tired, half asleep in the storm. You look out the window. The rain blurs everything. The street beyond has dissolved into streaks of grey and faint glimmers of light. For a moment, you think you see someone standing at the far end of the lane, tall shape, almost human, almost motionless. But the water bends and breaks the outline until it is impossible to know if it was ever there. You blink. The rain keeps falling. When you turn away, the room feels different. You can't explain how. The air seems thicker, as though someone has walked through only moments before, leaving behind the faintest trace of their presence. You think of the door closing in the distance, and you wonder if it was closer than you imagined. Still, the rain comforts you. Its voice is constant. Its rhythm is safe. You sit again, listening, letting it weave itself around your thoughts. The rain does not change. It never grows heavier, never weakens, never stops. It is steady, as though time itself has folded into a pattern that refuses to break. You notice this now. Hours have passed, yet the rhythm is identical, as though every drop is simply an echo of the one before it. The house seems aware of it too. You lean back in the chair, eyes half closed, and let the sound guide you. But beneath the comfort is something else. The faint impression that the rain is not only outside. Sometimes, when you focus carefully, you think you hear it inside the walls, as though trickling down unseen corridors that stretch beyond the limits of the house itself. You shift slightly, and the floorboards groan in reply. It is not unusual for old houses to creak. You remind yourself of that, again and again. But this sound is softer, quieter, as if the wood is not straining under your weight, but murmuring back to you in the same secretive tone as the rain. The lamp flickers, shadows ripple. For an instant, you glimpse the room differently as, though its corners have shifted, stretching wider, retreating deeper into shadow. But when the light steadies again, everything is as it was, almost. The picture frame above the mantel is not quite straight. You do not remember it being tilted. You rise, slowly, carefully, as though someone might be watching. The picture frame is small, old, its glass clouded by years of dust. The photo inside is unfamiliar, at least you think it is. A black and white portrait of a man with pale eyes, standing stiffly beside a rain-slick street. His face is clear, but the background is blurred, as though the rain fell even when the picture was taken. You adjust the frame. The wall is cold beneath your fingers, colder than it should be. For a moment, you feel dampness on the plaster, as though the rain has seeped through, soaking silently into the bones of the house. But when you look, the wall is dry. The lamp flickers again. The frame tilts back to its crooked angle. You step away. The rain continues. You decide to walk through the house. Movement feels necessary, as though the stillness itself might become too heavy if you remain seated for too long. The hallway is narrow, lined with doors. The wood smells faintly of dust and age, but also of something cleaner, sharper like rain on stone. You move past the first door, then the second, pausing at the third. It is slightly open. You do not remember leaving it that way. Beyond, only darkness waits. No furniture, no detail, only a blackness that seems to breathe softly in rhythm with the rain. You stand at the threshold, watching, listening. Every few seconds, you think you see something stir in that dark space. A shift, a faint ripple, as though the shadows themselves are rearranging. But when you lean closer, it is only silence. Only the steady pulse of water against the windows. You close the door gently. The latch clicks, and in the moment after, you hear another door close elsewhere in the house. You pause. You wait. The rain fills the silence. Perhaps it was only the wind. Perhaps the old frame of the house is settling. These thoughts comfort you, but they do not linger long, because now, as you stand in the hallway, you notice the sound of footsteps. Not heavy ones, not close, just faint creaks, somewhere above, timed almost perfectly with the rain, as though the house itself has begun to walk slowly around you. You tell yourself to return to the chair, to the lamp, to the steady safety of the room you know. And you do. Step by step, you retreat. Each board whispers as you pass, but when you reach the chair and sit, the house quiets again. Only the rain remains. It soothes. It repeats. It lulls. Your breathing slows. But before you close your eyes, you notice the picture frame. Crooked again, the rain has become part of your breathing. It is no longer outside, not really. It runs through you now, each drop echoing faintly in your chest, a rhythm that feels older than thought. You sit in the chair, eyes unfocused, and for a long time it seems the rain has replaced silence. But then another sound enters, soft, low, like the scrape of fabric against wood. You look toward the hallway. The doors wait there in their silent row, each one holding back a darkness you cannot measure. The third door, the one you closed, feels heavier in your memory, as though it is still slightly ajar. You rise again, as though pulled gently by strings. The floor whispers beneath you. The air grows cooler. In the hallway, you pause at the second door. It leads to a narrow room you have not entered for weeks. You turn the handle. The air inside is still, dust clinging faintly in beams of weak light from the small window, and in the center stands a tall mirror, its surface blurred slightly by age. You step closer. Your reflection is there, pale and soft in the dimness. The rain behind you looks strange in the glass, streaking endlessly, bending light in ways that make the room seem larger than it is. You tilt your head, and your reflection tilts more slowly, just half a breath delayed. Your eyes remain locked on its eyes, searching for the floor, the trick of light. Perhaps it is only your imagination, blurred by tiredness. But when you lift your hand, the reflection lags again, just enough to feel intentional. You step back. The mirror shows you stepping forward. The rain blurs, and then everything is still again. You leave the room and close the door carefully. You do not look back. The footsteps above remain in your mind, faint, timed with the rain, as though someone walks in slow circles just beyond your ceiling. You find the attic door. The pull cord hangs above you, swaying slightly, though no draft moves through the hallway. You hesitate. You tell yourself you will not pull it, that there is no reason to climb those narrow stairs. But the house waits. The rain waits. And your hand lifts anyway. The cord is cool, damp to the touch. You tug, and the stairs unfold with a long sigh. Dust drifts. Shadows lean downward. You climb slowly. The boards groan. At the top, the attic opens like a hollow lung. Empty space stretching farther than it should, filled with the smell of wet wood. Rain patters faintly against the roof above, but here it sounds sharper, almost metallic, as though falling against something unseen. You step inside, and then you hear it breathing, not loud, not near, but spread everywhere, as though the attic itself is inhaling slowly, exhaling with the rhythm of the rain. You wait, you listen, and in the far corner, just for a moment, you see a shape, long, still, watching. The lamp downstairs flickers, sending a dim pulse of light through the open hatch. When you look again, the corner is empty, but the breathing remains. You descend. The stairs fold upward, closing with a hollow click. The house exhales. Back in the chair, you glance at the mantel. The picture frame waits. Its glass catches the weak light. Crooked, always crooked. The man in the photograph seems closer now, his pale eyes clearer, his rain-slick streak sharper in detail, as though the weather inside the frame has thinned. You lean closer. His mouth seems parted, just slightly, as though mid-breath, mid-word. You blink. The picture is still, but when you step back, you hear the faint sound of another door closing somewhere above. The rain continues. The house listens, and you begin to wonder if it remembers you. The rain is endless. It is not fierce. It is not violent. It is simply there, constant, like a low hum pressed against the windows of the world. Hours pass, or perhaps minutes. Time bends in the rhythm of the drops, and you find yourself drifting. The chair beneath you creaks softly whenever you shift, as if the wood has grown tired of waiting. The house is not empty. You feel this now, with a certainty that does not come from reason, but from rhythm. The doors breathe faintly. The walls pulse with the sound of water trickling through unseen veins, and every window watches. You close your eyes. The rain does not let you sleep. There it is again, above you, faint creaks, too slow to be wind, too precise to be random. A step, pause, another step, timed with the rain. You sit still, barely breathing, listening. The pattern is steady, circling, always circling. It does not hurry, it does not stop. Then silence. You wait, holding your breath, and in the space between the rain, you hear something softer like fabric brushing wood, as though someone has leaned against the beams above, shifting slightly, waiting. The attic, always the attic. You rise, leaving the chair again. This time, your feet guide you not to the stairs, but to the kitchen. The air is colder here, damp. The tiles glisten faintly, as though mist has crept in during the night. You place your hand on the counter. It is slick, as if touched by unseen rain. The sink drips, slow, measured. The The drops blend with the rain outside until you cannot tell which sound belongs to which. You glance at the window. There is nothing but water on glass. But as you watch, a shape leans briefly into view, tall, indistinct, pressing close to the pane as though studying you through the blur. You blink, and it is gone. Yet the condensation on the glass has changed. Faint streaks run downward, not from rain, but from the inside. You step back, the sink drips, the rain falls. When you return to the hallway, the second door, the one with the mirror, seems to wait for you. You pause, hand on the knob, reluctant but compelled. You open it. The mirror reflects the room, quiet, unchanged. But the reflection of you is blurred now, as though caught beneath moving water. You lean closer, and then it whispers, not from its surface, not from your reflection, but from somewhere between. A voice you cannot place, low, steady, speaking words you cannot understand. Each syllable blends with the rain, becoming part of its rhythm. Your reflection does not move its lips, but its eyes seem wider. You close the door, slowly, carefully. The whispering fades. The rain continues. Back in the main room, you settle once more into the chair. The lamp hums faintly. The shadows stretch. The picture frame tilts, always tilting. You do not rise to straighten it this time. You let it remain crooked, because you know it will return to that angle no matter how you adjust it. The man in the photo is watching you now, his pale eyes clearer than before, his blurred streak sharpening as though the rain in the image is thinning. You tell yourself not to look, but you do. And in that quiet moment, when the house sighs and the rain seems to lean against the windows, you think you see him move, just slightly, a step forward. The photo does not change, but you cannot unsee it. The rain loops, the house breathes, and somewhere within its walls, something waits for you to notice it fully. The rain has no beginning and no end. It is always there, a steady curtain against the glass, as if the sky has forgotten every season except this one. Hours dissolve into its rhythm, perhaps days. You no longer know. You sit in the chair, the lamplight humming faintly at your side, the shadows stretching and folding with the flicker of each drop sliding down the window. The house does not rest. It waits. You rise. The chair sighs as though relieved. The corridor is darker than before. Each door stands closed, yet each one feels slightly open in spirit, as though watching you pass. The third door, the one you closed, still seems heavier, as if something leans against it from the other side. Your hand hovers above the knob. You do not touch it. Instead, you move to the far end of the hall, where the wood smells faintly of damp earth. Here the rain sounds different, closer, sharper. You press your palm against the wall. It is wet, not damp, not cold wet. And beneath your skin, you think you feel a slow pulse, like the beat of a heart inside the plaster. You step back, the wall is dry. Back in the main room, you notice the clock. It ticks, yes, but slowly now, almost hesitant, as though each second must be persuaded to move. You listen, tick, silence, tick, longer silence, and then, in one moment, it does not tick at all. The hands stay frozen. The rain fills the pause, and then tick. But the sound comes not from the clock. It comes from the hallway, from the third door. You sit very still, heart pressing softly against your chest. The rain calms you, anchors you, but the silence between drops has grown deeper. That is when you hear it. A voice, not loud, not clear, but low, from the walls, from the rain. You cannot place the words. They dissolve the moment they reach your ears. vanishing like breath on glass. But the rhythm of the voice is steady, slow, almost kind. It reminds you of someone trying to comfort a child in the dark. You want to move closer, you want to step away. Instead, you remain still. The voice fades, the rain continues. You wander into the dining room. The table is long, wood cracked with age. You trace your hand along its edge and feel grooves where knives once carved. Chairs line the table, but some face the wrong way, as though turned hastily during a conversation that was never finished. You move one gently. Its legs drag across the floor with a groan, long and hollow, echoing into the quiet. When the sound fades, you hear another chair move at the far end of the table. You freeze. The rain whispers. When you look again, the chairs are all still, yet one is turned slightly more than before. Back in the main room, you glance at the mantel. The frame is crooked, always crooked. The man with pale eyes waits within. His street is clearer now, the rain thinning in the image until you can almost see cobblestones. His eyes do not blur, do not shift, but they seem deeper, as though the photo is less a photograph and more a window. For a moment, you think you see movement beyond him, a flicker of light in the distance of his street. Then the lamp in your room flickers, and when it steadies, the man is closer, just half a step. The rain continues. The house remembers, and you begin to wonder if you are the one visiting, or if you have been here far longer than you know. The rain has not stopped. It has not changed, not softened, not broken. It falls in the same rhythm it always has, as if the world outside has forgotten how to do anything else. You sit in the chair, listening. The windows blur with streaks of water, each line bending the light into strange patterns that crawl across the floor. The lamp hums faintly, fighting to keep the room alive. Shadows drift in cycles, never quite leaving, never quite still. At first, you tell yourself the rain is soothing, a lullaby pressed against the walls. But slowly, the pattern becomes too precise, too steady. It no longer feels like weather, it feels like intention. You rise, pacing. The floor groans, as though it remembers every step you've taken before. You pause in the hallway. Doors wait in a line, their silence heavier than the walls around them. The third door is slightly open. You don't recall leaving it that way. When you close it, another door answers with a click somewhere else in the house. The rain grows louder. The kitchen smells of damp stone. The sink drips, each drop a twin of the rain outside. When you place your hand on the counter, the tile is slick, though no water runs across it. The window is fogged. A blurred shape leans close, just for an instant, watching through the glass. When it fades, condensation trails remain on the inside. You retreat. The house exhales. The second door waits for you. Inside is the tall mirror, its surface dulled with age. Your reflection stares back, pale, blurred by water, as if you were standing beneath rain. You lift your hand, and the reflection follows, but slowly, delayed, as though resisting. Then, from somewhere between the glass and the room, a whisper rises. Not words you know, not a language you recognize, just syllables pressed into rhythm with the rain. You close the door gently. The whisper fades, but the sound of breathing follows you down the hall. The pull cord hangs, swaying though there is no draft. Your hand lifts against your will. The cord is cold, damp. You tug. The stairs unfold with a sigh. The attic yawns wide, darker than it should be. The rain is sharper here, almost metallic, as though falling against hidden things. And then you hear it, breathing, slow, deep, spread across the beams, as though the attic itself is alive. In the corner, a shape leans, still watching. The lamp below flickers. Shadows bend. When you look again, the corner is empty, but the breathing does not leave. Back in the chair, the lamp hums again. Shadows stretch. The picture frame above the mantel tilts, as it always does. The man inside is clearer now. His pale eyes sharper, his street more distinct, his mouth slightly parted, as though he has just spoken. You lean closer, and though the photograph does not move, you know he has taken a step forward. The night folds in on itself. The rain continues, unchanged. The doors whisper in their hinges. The floor remembers each step. You close your eyes, telling yourself you will rest, that sleep will come. But the house is awake. The rain is awake. And somewhere inside these walls, something is waiting for you to notice it fully. The rain does not end. It has become a presence, not weather. A rhythm that folds into the bones of the house, into your breathing, into your thoughts. You sit in the chair, watching the blurred window. Drops form, join, slide, vanish again and again, without change. Time no longer feels like hours or minutes. It feels like this cycle alone. The clock ticks weakly, then stops. The silence between ticks grows heavier. And in that silence, you hear it. A sound not of rain, but of something else. A creak. A pause. Another creak. Footsteps above. You rise, staring at the mantel. The clock's hands remain frozen, but the sound of ticking continues soft, irregular. No longer from the clock itself, but from somewhere in the house. One tick comes from the hallway, another from the far room, and then a third from the third door, the one that never stays closed. The sound blends with the rain, so perfectly timed that you wonder if the house is teaching itself a new heartbeat. You wonder. The rain follows you, pressing close against the windows. The dining room greets you with its long table, worn smooth by years. Chairs sit in place, but you feel they are waiting to move. One faces the wrong way. Another leans just slightly to the side, as if someone left in a hurry long ago. You place your hand on a chair and pull. Its legs scrape across the floor with a groan that seems too long, too heavy, as though the sound itself refuses to end. When it finally fades, another chair moves at the far end of the table. You freeze. The rain presses harder against the glass. When you look again, the chairs are still, all except one, which is now turned further away. Back in the main room, your eyes return to the frame. Crooked, always crooked. The man inside is clearer than before. His pale eyes do not blur in the rain-slicked street. His lips are parted now, more than you remember, as if he is on the edge of speech. You lean closer, and in the blurred background of his street, you see another figure, faint, distant, watching him or watching you. The lamp flickers. The photo sharpens for an instant. The man is nearer. Not much, just half a step forward. You blink, and the photo is still again. But the unease lingers. The rain grows softer for a moment, and in that thinning sound, you hear a voice. Not loud, not clear, but steady, as though pressed into the wood around you. The words dissolve before they reach sense, each syllable carried away by the rain. Still, the rhythm is unmistakable, slow, patient, the cadence of someone speaking calmly in another room. You lean closer to the wall. It is cold, and for a moment, damp, as though the rain seeps through unseen cracks. The whisper grows clearer. You close your eyes, listening, but the moment you try to understand the words, they vanish. Only the rain remains. You wander the hallway once more. The second door, the one with the mirror, seems to lean toward you. You hesitate, remembering the reflection that lagged behind, the whisper that slipped from its surface. But another door draws your attention, instead the first door. You have not opened it tonight. Your hand finds the knob. It is colder than it should be. You push it open. The room beyond is small, empty. The walls bare, the floor marked by stains that do not have shapes you recognize. In the center of the floor, faintly, you see water. Just a small pool, as if rain had found a way inside. But the ceiling above is dry. You stare at the water. Its surface trembles, not from your movement, not from any draft. It trembles as if something beneath it is breathing. You step back. You close the door. The house exhales. The rain continues. The clock does not tick, and the house remembers. The rain has become your companion. It whispers against the windows, slides along the walls, seeps into the spaces between each thought. You tell yourself it is harmless, even soothing. But tonight, the rain is not content to stay outside. Tonight, it feels as though it has entered the very structure of the house. Every step you take echoes in ways you cannot explain. Each board groans, not from weight, but from memory, as if the house recalls footsteps long before yours. You pause before the narrow window in the hall. The glass is streaked, blurred by endless lines of water. Beyond it, the night is empty in the darkness, and the faint suggestion of trees swaying in the storm. But then, between two drops, you see something, a face, pressed close to the glass, so pale it almost glows. Its features blur instantly in the rain, gone before you can be certain. You lean forward, searching, but there is nothing now, only the faint reflection of your own eyes, clouded with fatigue. And yet the glass is wet on the inside. A single drop runs downward, leaving a thin line across the frame. The stairs groan as you climb. The sound of rain follows, but here it feels heavier, closer, as though the roof can barely hold against it. At the landing, the air is colder. A draft you cannot place moves softly, though every window is closed. You stand listening. A door creaks, not loudly, not near, just enough to let you know it has shifted by its own decision. You move down the hall. Each door is shut tight, yet one, the last, leans ever so slightly open. You hesitate. The rain beats harder above, pressing on the roof with a rhythm that feels like footsteps, slow and deliberate. You touch the knob. The door swings open with no resistance. The room beyond is bare. A bed frame against the wall. A dresser leaning slightly to one side. Nothing more. And yet the air feels occupied, as though someone has just left moments before you entered. It begins faintly, almost hidden beneath the rain. A low, steady exhale spread thin across the room. You pause, listening. The sound is not from the walls, not from the roof. It is in the air itself, surrounding you. You close your eyes, and the rhythm becomes clearer. Exhale steady, endless. When you open them, the dresser has shifted, just slightly. Its angle is wrong now, crooked against the wall. You step back. The breathing grows louder, and then, all at once, it stops. The silence that follows is heavier than the sound. Back in the main room, you try to steady yourself. The chair welcomes you. The lamp hums faintly, but the mantle waits. The frame is crooked, always crooked. The man inside no longer feels distant. His eyes are sharp now, unblurred by rain. The street behind him is clearer, as though the storm inside the photograph has begun to ease. You lean closer, unwilling but compelled, and this time there is no mistaking it. His lips are moving, No sound emerges, no words you can hear. But the rhythm of his mouth matches the rhythm of the rain, and in that moment, you realize the voice you heard in the walls is his. The rain presses closer, wrapping itself around the house in endless rhythm. The clock no longer ticks, the walls no longer settle, only the rain remains. You close your eyes, breathing with it, telling yourself sleep will come. But the last thought you hold before drifting is this: the house is not listening to the rain. The house is listening to you. The rain has the patience of stone. It does not rush you. It does not demand. It simply waits at the glass, repeating itself until the repetition becomes a comfort you did not know you needed. You sit in the chair and breathe with it, in, out. The lamp hums. The walls rest their weight around you like a blanket pulled to the chin. The clock forgets to tick. Somewhere above, wood settles with a sound that could be footsteps or memory. You do not rise, not yet. The rain is gentle, tonight gentle, and strangely attentive, as though it is listening for something small and bright tucked inside your breath. A soft draft moves across the room. It smells faintly of wet bark and cold iron, like the underside of a bridge after a long storm. The draft brushes the picture frame on the mantel. The frame tilts, quietly choosing its crooked angle, the same one it always returns to when you are not watching. You watch anyway. The man in the photograph has not changed, not truly. Pale eyes, rain-slick street. The posture of someone who understands long weather. Yet the background behind him seems to loosen, the blur separating into shapes that were not there before. A row of stones, a lamp whose flame can only ever be imagined, a window that might be open. You lower your gaze. The rain continues. The house listens. The night grows softer. You do not remember the first time your name appears. Perhaps it does not appear at all. Perhaps it is only the way certain drops strike the sill, one after another, until the pattern stirs a syllable in your mind. But once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Not loud, not certain, not even truly there. Just a suggestion that arrives with the patience of water. Your name, carried on a rhythm that never argues. You exhale slowly. The chair answers with a gentle sigh, the wood easing beneath you, as if the house has read your tension and decided to press it flat. Not now, you whisper, though you are not sure to whom you speak. The rain agrees by doing nothing different at all. The lamp's hum thickens and thins, a quiet breathing of wire and filament. When you look down, you notice a dark speck on the table, something you have not seen before. A ring of moisture has printed itself into the wood, and within that ring, a small brass key rests, dull with age, warm from the lamp's small heat. You do not remember placing it there. You do not remember owning a key so thin. When you lift it, the metal feels almost weightless. The way certain memories feel light in the hands, but heavy at the back of the mind. The teeth are shallow, not built to command a modern lock, but to persuade a simple one-something old, something that trusts rather than resists. You listen for the sound of any lock in the house, craving this key. The rain answers for the house, tapping steadily, patient as a heartbeat that never needs proof of itself. You place the key in your pocket. The gesture is small. The rain approves by refusing to notice. The mirror in the second room remembers you. You feel its attention before you turn the knob. The way you can feel a sleeping animal stir when you pass too close to its warmth. The door opens on clean hinges. A grey light stands in the air like fog that has forgotten how to move. You step inside. The mirror welcomes you with a reflection that is almost the room you know. Almost your face, softened by the dim. The door at your back. The rain at your side. But the corners are wrong. In the glass, the room's angles have melted. The ceiling meets the walls in a curve, and the floor rises gently to meet them, as if the room has been listening so long to the rain that it has learned to flow. You lift your hand. Your reflection follows. It does not lag this time. The delay has learned your rhythm. Do you know me? You ask, and you do not expect an answer. Yet one arrives in the form of a faint vibration through the wood beneath your feet. A hush deep in the bones of the house, as if a word was spoken 3 rooms away and the syllable came not through air, but through timber. You lower your hand. The mirror keeps your hand raised for a slow, graceful breath, then lets it fall. You nod to your reflection. It nods back at once. Obedient, no games tonight. The rain approves. Repetition is a bridge. On your way out, you touch the doorframe. The grain is damp, and the damp is kind, and you leave a print that looks like the shadow of a leaf. The attic does not call you by name. It does not need to. A single thread of colder air descends through the pulled hatch, finds the hollow of your collarbone, and rests there with the patience of an old thought. You climb. Each step opens a soft creak that fails to wake anything. The attic receives you as the sea receives a pebble, without celebration, without complaint, only by allowing your shape to rest inside its larger shape. Tonight, the breathing is not everywhere. It is gathered near the far joist, low to the floor, like the quiet of someone sleeping near a window. You move toward it with careful feet. The rain above taps the roof in a steady diagram only you can read. There is a lamp you have not noticed before. No bulb shines in it. The metal is thin and a little crooked, the shade dented where a hand once steadied it too firmly. You retrieve the brass key from your pocket without knowing why. The base of the lamp offers a lock so small you must trust your fingers to find it. They do. The key turns half a breath. No click, no spark, only a soft slackening inside the metal, as if the lamp chose, long ago, to stop pretending to be anything but a place to rest your hands. You leave the key in the lock. It looks at home there, like a word found in its sentence. The breathing at the joist loosens, a deeper inhale, a calmer exhale. You kneel and press your palm to the floor. The wood is cooler than your skin, so gentle you could mistake it for water remembering how to be ice. Sleep, you say, and the attic agrees by making no sound at all. Downstairs, the narrow hall window holds the night like a shallow bowl. Water slides across it, drawing lines that do not keep their promises. You lean close until your breath blurs a small oval in the glass. Within that oval, the outside becomes briefly yours. A pale tree, a fence that remembers the shape of an animal that once leaned against it, a strip of sky the color of steel left in rain. Your breath fades, the oval closes, the night forgets you again, and the forgetting is not unkind. On the inner frame, droplets hang with a patience that might be devout. They do not fall. They thicken slowly until their weight persuades them to move. You watch one and name it without speaking. When it finally slides, it leaves behind a clean trail, a line of memory on paint. The next drop follows. The trail deepens. The repetition becomes a path. You trace that path with your fingertip and feel nothing but coolness and a faint, pleasing grit where older paint has tired of being perfect. The room greets you as if you have just returned from a long walk. The lamp offers its hum. The chair loosens the day from your shoulders. You do not look at the mantel, not at first. You allow the rain to make its case for comfort. You agree. The agreement lasts 3 breaths. Then your gaze rises. The frame is crooked. You accept it. Some things choose their angle. The man is not closer. He is not farther. He stands exactly where he stands, but the space around him has softened. The rain in his world falls in a way your eyes can now follow. His street is wider. There is a line of stones at his feet, like the jaw of a quiet animal. Behind him, an open doorway has resolved where once there was only a bruise of shadow. You do not ask permission. You lean in until glass almost touches your skin. Your reflection loosens, stepping aside the way a courteous stranger steps back on a narrow stair. In the doorway behind the man, a light flickers that does not quite exist. It is the idea of a light, the memory of one. The glow gives you the shape of a corridor, slim and patient, the kind of passage where footsteps prefer to be thoughts. A pulse moves through the photograph like a withheld word. Your name stirs at the edge of it, not spoken, not needed, only acknowledged. Do I enter, you ask? Voice barely more than warmth. The rain answers first, laying a slow drum across the glass. Then the house answers by becoming even stiller than before. In stillness, doors know how to open. You breathe on the frame. A small fog blooms. When it fades, the man's pale eyes are kind. He has not moved, and yet the corridor behind him is wider. You settle back into the chair. It is not time yet. It is enough to be invited. The staircase holds a hush as clean as folded linen. You descend 3 steps, not to go anywhere, but to listen from a different height. The rain shifts slightly in your ears, as if a musician has moved one chair to the left. At the landing, the air carries a smell of wet rope and cedar planks left stacked for a boat that was never built. Your palm rests on the banister. The varnish is thin, where hands have always chosen the same place to turn. You imagine the footsteps you sometimes hear slow, patient, with pauses long enough to see the shape of the next step before taking it. The imagining is enough to make the wood respond, a faint answering creak, not beneath you, but 2 steps ahead, like a companion who offers the illusion that you lead. You wait. The companion waits with you. When you climb back up, your soles remember the exact parts of the stair that prefer the weight of your heels. And you place them there, a quiet ritual you did not know you knew. The dining chairs are mild this evening. They do not scrape. They do not test your attention. Still, one stands at a modest angle from the table, the position of a guest who has listened longer than planned and has decided to stay another 5 minutes. You move it gently into line. The line pleases the table, which settles by a whisper, the grain flexing like a cat's back, smoothing beneath a careful hand. At the far end, an empty glass reflects a shape that might be your shoulder, might be rain, might be the idea of a shoulder you will one day have when the weather has finished its work. The glass fogs, clears, fogs again. A slow breathing you could live inside. You leave the room by the same path you entered. It matters to do some things exactly once each night. The chair receives you. The lamp warms your cheek. The clock remembers one tick, offers it, and returns to silence, satisfied that time has been acknowledged. You close your eyes, and the rain places its hand on your forehead, the way an older relative does, when the fire is low and tomorrow is not in a hurry. A draft tucks the blanket closer to your legs. Somewhere above, the attic releases a small breath, the kind made by a sleeper whose dream has turned gently toward a calmer shore. In that soft, long moment, you feel the house learning something. Not your secrets. You do not keep those here. It learns your pace. The measure of your inhale. The exact weight your right foot prefers to give the third board in the hall. The degree to which you will accept a crooked frame as a sign of life rather than a flaw. The house learns your name, not to call it, but to say it silently when the rain asks who is inside. Here you say, barely speaking. The word folds into the blanket. The house nods. You do not dream of the man in the photograph. Instead, you dream you are walking down a corridor made entirely of listening. The walls are made of attention. The floor is made of patience. The ceiling is made of weather that will not hurry. As you walk, each step becomes less a step and more a permission. When you reach the end, there is no door. There is only the sound of rain giving way to the memory of rain, which is the same sound, but thinner, warmer, easy to rest inside. You turn back and find that the corridor has grown longer, the way distance grows when it knows you intend to be gentle with it. You do not wake because nothing in the dream insists that you must. Morning does not arrive. Not in the strict sense. The rain decides to be lighter, and the light agrees to be rain. And between them they invent a pale brightness that moves across the wall like a thought willing to be kept. You open your eyes. The lamp has turned itself off without losing the warmth of its shade. The chair holds the shape of your sleep, as if it has found a way to memorize softness. You stand. The house does not stir. It is already where you are. In the mirror room, your reflection does not delay. It meets you promptly, as if to say, "We have agreed on rhythm." In the attic, the lamp still has no bulb, but the brass key rests in its lock, and the lock looks relieved. In the hall, the window offers a single drop balanced at the exact center of its lower edge, a jewel that will fall when it wishes and not before. At the mantel, the frame has kept its angle. The man keeps his place. The corridor behind him is open, and the open is enough. You set your thumb to the glass, the smallest promise you can make, and leave a print that evaporates into patience. Outside, the rain continues, as kind to the soil as to the roof, as kind to the trees as to the nails that hold them in the picture frame of the world. Inside, the house breathes your name once more, not to summon you, not to bind you, only to know you are here, and that here is a small country where weather can finally rest. You sit, you listen, and the listening becomes the story moving forward, one quiet room at a time. The rain has found a way to be infinite, not heavy, not wild, not violent, just constant. You listen, as always, from the chair. The lamp hums. The clock is silent. The air is thick with the soft pulse of water pressing against the world. But tonight, something feels different. The rain is not only outside the walls, it is behind them, above them, beneath them. The sound has deepened, folding into layers, as if the house itself has grown hollow and wide enough to contain rivers. You close your eyes. The house does not let you drift yet. You stand, following the quiet pull that always leads you back to the hall. It is longer tonight. You know it should end after the fourth door, with the window at the far wall. But now, the hall continues. Its boards groan gently beneath your weight, as though relieved to be walked upon again. The air cools, damp with the scent of moss, and the faint echo of water dripping into a space you cannot see. You pause, you turn back. The chair is still there, distant now, small in its glow. The lamp hums faintly, a reminder that home is still home. Yet when you face forward again, the hall is longer still. The rain approves. Its rhythm does not falter. There should not be a fifth door, yet one waits here, pale wood, knob tarnished by hands that were not yours. You hesitate. The door is not closed, not open. It rests in the quiet space between, its frame leaning ever so slightly toward you, like a listener deciding whether to speak. You touch the knob. It is warm, as though someone has just left. When you open it, you find not a room, but another hall, narrower, darker, lined with windows that look out on nothing but rain. You step inside. The floor creaks softly. The door closes behind you. Each window holds rain on both sides. Water streaks down the glass from outside, and beads form on the inside, trembling with the rhythm of your footsteps. When you stop, they stop. When you breathe, they breathe. You lean close to one pane. Your reflection stares back, blurred by water, softened by the dim. You raise your hand. The reflection raises its hand at once, obedient, no hesitation. But as you lower your arm, the reflection keeps its palm raised, as though it has chosen to wave farewell or to warn you. You step back, the window's fog hiding the reflection. The rain continues. Halfway down the hall, the air changes. It smells of soil, dark and wet, the way earth smells after being turned with a spade. The scent is thick, grounding, reminding you of places deeper than this house, older than its beams. You follow it. The boards grow softer beneath your steps, until each one sinks slightly, as if remembering rain that has soaked too long. And then you hear it a trickle, a stream. Running water, faint and constant, moving somewhere beneath the floor. The house has rivers now. At the far end, you find a chair, old, wooden. Its back cracked, one leg braced with a sliver of cloth. It faces the wall. You circle it slowly. The chair is empty, its seat warped by years, the fabric threadbare. Yet as you study it, you cannot escape the feeling that someone has only just stood, leaving behind the ghost of their weight. You touch the wood, it is warm. And when you glance back down the hall, every window is fogged with the shape of a hand pressed against glass. Not yours, not quite human. You return, slowly. The hall shortens behind you, folding itself into the house you know. When you step back into the main room, the lamp greets you, steady in its hum. The chair waits. The rain presses its soft hands against the windows, and the frame is crooked. The man stands where he always stands, but now the corridor behind him is brighter. The open doorway has grown taller, and the suggestion of stairs descends into darkness. You lean close, and for the first time, you hear it clearly, a drop of water falling within the photograph itself. The sound echoes in your chest. The rain outside softens, briefly, as though making room for this new rhythm. The rain continues. The house has stretched itself wider, and somewhere within its new halls, a space has been prepared for you. The rain is not outside anymore. It lives in every corner now. The windows may still shiver with drops, but you know the truth. The rhythm has slipped through the glass, soaked into the walls, made a home in the bones of the house. You breathe with it. The house breathes with you. Tonight feels different, not louder, not darker, simply nearer. The way someone might lean across a table, not to speak, but to listen. The hall waits for you. You do not rush. You let the floorboards sigh beneath you, one after another, like tired companions who never complain, only remember. The first door silent. The second door, the mirror behind it, quiet but aware. The third door always ajar, always heavier than it should be. You pause at the third. The knob feels faintly damp, though the air is dry. You press it closed again. The latch clicks, gentle, final. But somewhere further down, another door clicks in answer, as if the house wants balance, as if one closing must always call another to open. The first door opens easily now. The pool of water on the floor is larger. It glimmers faintly in the thin lamplight, not reflecting properly but bending the room around it. You crouch near, listening. The water trembles, though the air is still. It trembles in rhythm. Inhale, exhale. You hold your breath, testing. The rhythm continues. The pool does not mirror you. It mirrors something else. Then you hear it. The faint sound of rain, not above, not against the window, but from the water itself, as if it remembers storms you have never seen. You step back, careful. The water does not follow, but you know it could. The second door opens slower tonight, as if testing you. Inside, the mirror stands in its corner, tall, unbroken, faintly blurred. You face yourself, but your reflection is not exact anymore. Its eyes blink a moment after yours. Its breathing is longer, slower, as though it is falling into sleep while you remain awake. You step forward. It waits. You lift your hand. It follows, but with the grace of something practiced, something tired of pretending to be human. And then you hear your name again, not spoken by the reflection, not even spoken at all, simply present in the glass, folded into the rain's rhythm, so natural you almost forget it is unusual. You whisper back. The mirror fogs faintly, as though exhaling in relief. You leave the room before the rhythm persuades you to stay forever. Back at the mantel, the frame has chosen its angle. Crooked, calm, defiant. The man with pale eyes has not moved closer, not this time. But the corridor behind him glows more distinctly. Where once there was only blur, now there is stone-wet stone, lined with something like moss or shadow. You lean closer. For a moment, the smell of damp earth reaches you, clear as though the photograph were open to the air. The man's mouth is parted still. His eyes are kind, patient, endless. And in the corridor behind him, a door waits. Not yet open, not yet closed, simply waiting. The rain continues, but it is no longer background. It is part of the house's voice, part of its memory. The floorboards creak in your rhythm. The clock ticks only when you exhale. The attic breathes when you pause. The house is no longer listening. The house is learning. You sit back in the chair, eyelids heavy. The rain soothes even as it unsettles. You let the rhythm carry you downward, slower and slower, until the sound is no longer outside, no longer even in the house. It is inside you, and you let it stay. The rain is quieter now. Not weaker, not fading, only quieter, as if it has decided to lean in close, lowering its voice so you will listen more carefully. Every drop seems deliberate. Every streak down the glass feels like a line written for you. You return to the stairs. Tonight they feel longer, though you know they're measured by heart. One step sighs, another bends softly under your heel. Each creak is gentle, timed with your breath, as though the staircase is no longer wood, but a companion that carries you in its rhythm. At the landing, the air shifts, colder, yes, but also familiar. The faintest scent of wet earth lingers here, the same as in the first room where the water gathers. A reminder that beneath the floorboards, something waits, something that drinks the rain. You pause. The rain taps softly against the roof above. The sound is not distant anymore. It is within reach, like fingers drumming on the other side of thin wood. You descend one more step. The sound follows, not echoing, mirroring. When you return to the dining room, the chair at the far end of the table is no longer turned. It is aligned perfectly with the others, as though ashamed of being noticed. But another chair closer to you now leans out, waiting. You study it. The seat is empty, of course. The wood cracked, the fabric torn. Nothing unusual. Yet as you stand there, a weight begins to press faintly against the air above it. A suggestion of presence. as though someone has lowered themselves carefully into the chair, invisible, silent, but unwilling to hide the fact that they sit. You step back, the chair creaks, not from you, from them. You leave it as it is. The rain approves. Back in the main room, you face the mantel again. The frame holds steady, tilted but stubborn, as though the wall itself prefers it that way. The man inside is patient. His pale eyes hold no malice, no warmth, only endless attention. He is not closer. He does not need to be, because behind him the corridor has grown deeper. The door at its end is more visible now. It leans slightly open, showing only blackness beyond, and for the first time, the photograph no longer feels flat. The corridor feels as though it has weight, as though, if you leaned too close, you might fall forward and strike the stone with your palms. You reach out, your fingers stop at the cold glass, but your mind does not. For a moment, you feel the damp chill of air from inside the picture. It smells of moss and stone. You withdraw your hand. The lamp hums louder, trying to tether you here. You thank it silently. The attic exhales above you, slow, patient. The floor beneath you exhales too, its boards expanding and contracting with soft groans. The house does not hide this anymore. It breathes openly now. When you inhale, it inhales. When you exhale, it answers with a creak, a sigh, a faint settling of wood. You are not inside the house. You are inside its chest. At last, you settle back into the chair. The lamp steadies. The rain keeps its rhythm. The walls lean closer, not to threaten, but to listen. You close your eyes. The house holds you carefully, like something fragile it has chosen not to break. And in the faint silence between drops, you hear a thought that is not yours. You are not alone here. You never were. The rain continues. You drift deeper. The rain does not change. It has no need to. Its rhythm has already settled into you, woven itself into your pulse, matched itself with your breath. You no longer wonder when it will stop. You no longer ask how long it has been falling. The question has dissolved. Only the sound remains. Tonight the sound is closer, not louder closer. Each drop feels as though it is no longer outside, but only a few steps away, waiting in the next room, waiting in the next breath. The lamp hums as always, but tonight its hum falters. For a breath it dims, as though uncertain whether to hold the room together. Shadows stretch too far, lean across the walls, and linger in places they should not. You place your hand on the lamp's base, warm, familiar. The hum steadies again, but in that brief falter, you saw the frame had straightened itself. Not crooked, not defiant, straight. The man inside stands clearer now than ever. His eyes are pale fire, not cruel, not kind, only endless. And the corridor behind him is no longer a blur. It is stone, damp and real. You can see the moss between the cracks, the water trickling down its walls, the door at its end leaning half open. The photograph has become a room. You lean closer. At first, you expect glass, the cool surface, the familiar barrier. But your fingers pass only air. The frame is no longer a wall. It is an opening. The smell of wet stone meets you, strong and sharp, grounding you in a place you have never walked, yet somehow recognize. You hesitate. The lamp hums louder, as if to call you back. The rain softens, as if to call you forward. You choose. You step through. Stone greets you with damp silence. The corridor is narrow, the ceiling arched, the walls glistening with water that has been dripping for longer than time remembers. The rain follows you here, faint but steady, echoing through the stones as though the entire place is hollow and infinite. You touch the wall, cold, alive. The corridor stretches both ways, but your feet know the direction, forward toward the open door at its end. Each step you take is slow. Each echo folds into the rhythm of rain, becoming part of its endless loop. And behind Ursulines, the frame is gone. The room, the chair, the lamp gone. Only stone now. Only rain. You reach it. Old wood, swollen with water, leaning half open. You push gently. The hinges sigh. The door yields. Beyond is another room, small, square, lit by no lamp but faintly glowing with its own damp breath. A table waits in the center. Upon it, a frame. Your frame. The same wood, the same crooked angle, the same man with pale eyes. But from this side, the photograph shows not him, not the corridor. It shows you, sitting in the chair, watching, waiting. You step closer. The air thickens, heavy with the scent of wet earth and burning dust, like rain striking old stone, warmed by lightning. In the frame, your reflection moves. Not delayed, not obedient, independent. It blinks when you do not. It tilts its head when you remain still. And then it smiles, faint, patient, nothing cruel, only certain. You lift your hand, it does not lift its own. Instead, the man with pale eyes steps forward from behind your reflection, his presence filling the glass. He lays his hand on your reflection's shoulder, and though the frame is silent, you feel it in your bones. One must always stay. You step back. The corridor behind you exhales. The rain beats harder, not angry, not urgent, only insistent, reminding you that rhythm cannot be broken. The house you left and the corridor you entered are no longer separate. Their walls have learnt each other. Their breaths have become one. You realize then, when you return, and you know you will return, may not be to the same house at all. The rain has decided. The house has opened, and the frame is no longer a picture. It is a choice. The rain continues. You close your eyes, listening, letting it carry you down into rest. And in that soft descent, you hear it again, the faintest sound of breathing, this time in unison with your own. The rain has become the only measure. Not the clock, not the shadows, not even your breath. Only the rain. It falls outside. It falls within. It falls in places you cannot name, echoing through corridors that belong both to the house and to the stone passage you stepped into. You sit, or perhaps you stand. You cannot be sure. The chair may be beneath you, or the cold stone may be pressing against your back. Both are true. Both are waiting. The house and the corridor are no longer separate. When you open your eyes, a door waits. It is the third door of the hallway, the one that never stays shut. But it is also the swollen wooden door of the corridor, the one that opened into stone. You step closer. The wood breathes faintly. Rain runs down its surface, dripping both inward and outward, as though the door belongs to weather more than to walls. You push. The door yields. And beyond it, you find both. A narrow room you have always known, and a chamber you have never seen. The two overlap like reflections in moving water, trembling against each other, unable to decide which is real. The smell of moss, you step inside. The floor is wood, yet your feet feel stone. The air is dry, yet the smell of moss clings thick in your throat. The walls lean close, lined with shadows you know from your home, but they drip with water as though carved from earth. At the far end, a mirror stands. Or is it only a patch of stone, polished by centuries of rain? You lean closer. Your reflection is blurred again, its mouth moving, though you are silent. This time you recognize the rhythm. It is not speech, but breath. Your breath, but slower, deeper, heavier, as though your reflection is already asleep, and you are the dream it is having. The breathing grows stronger. It comes from above, yet there is no attic here. Still, the sound is the same. A long inhale through beams, a slow exhale through dust. You close your eyes. The attic returns. You open them. The corridor returns. The two are no longer different. You whisper, "I hear you." The breathing pauses, then continues, calmer, as though acknowledging the truth you have just accepted. You turn, and the mantle is here, though there should be no mantle in this corridor of stone. Yet it stands, tilted frame, waiting patiently. The man is there, of course, his pale eyes fixed, his mouth parted. But tonight, he is not alone. Behind him, your reflection lingers, seated where you should be, in the chair with the lamp's glow. It watches you with the faint smile you saw before, calm, patient, certain, and beyond them both, the corridor stretches, deeper than you remember, wet stone descending into a stair that curves out of sight. You lean closer, and for a moment, you are unsure if you are looking into the photograph, or if the photograph is looking into you. The sound changes again, not louder, not nearer, just everywhere. The rain is not on the windows. It is between the walls. It runs in threads through the seams of the house, dripping down beams, trickling along plaster. You hear it in the ceiling. You hear it under the floor, and faintly you hear your name, not spoken, not called, only carried in rhythm, folded into each drop the way memory is folded into silence. The house does not say it to claim you, it says it to remember you. You sit, or perhaps you stand. The chair holds you, and the stone presses you. The lamp hums, and the moss drips. The clock ticks, and the corridor breathes. The house and the corridor are no longer two places. They are one. And in that unity, you feel a peace, heavy and deep, like sleep itself. A sense that there is no leaving now, but also no need to. The rain continues. The house exhales. And you let yourself drift further into its rhythm, further into its memory. The rain is below you now. You hear it in the floor, not outside. It flows under the beams, trickling like a stream hidden beneath the house. When you breathe, you match its rhythm without effort. When you blink, the drops seem to fall in time with the shutter of your eyes. There is no question anymore of where the rain begins and ends. It has become the shape of everything. And tonight, it leads you downward. You stand before the staircase. It is wood, polished by years of steps, each board creaking softly when you shift your weight. It is stone, damp and cold, worn by centuries, each step shining with thin water. Both are true. Both wait for you. You begin to descend. Each step is careful, measured. Each creak becomes an echo, each echo a creak. The sounds overlap until they are indistinguishable. The railing is wood. The railing is stone. Your hand rests on both. The descent is slow, endless, patient. The air grows heavier. The smell of moss and wet soil deepens, folding itself into the dry dust of the house. It is not unpleasant. It is grounding, as if reminding you that the rain belongs not only to the sky, but to the earth that waits to receive it. You pause midway. Below you, shadows shift. Not quickly, not threatening, just gently, as though moving to make room. You descend further. The shadows remain still now, but you know they are aware of you, just as the house is aware, just as the rain is aware. At the bottom, a room waits. It is both basement and cavern, cellar and hollow carved by water. The walls glisten and the floor is uneven. part wood, part stone, part something older. In the center stands a table. Upon it rests another frame. You approach slowly. It is not the same frame as before, yet it feels like it. Its angle is crooked, its glass blurred, its wood softened by age. Inside, the man with pale eyes is gone. Instead, the photograph shows only rain, endless, falling, blurred. You stare until the rhythm of the drops in the picture merges with the rhythm of the drops around you. They are one. And in that moment, you feel as though you are looking not at an image, but at a window. A window that leads nowhere but into rain. The breathing returns, not above now, not behind the walls, beneath. The floor hums faintly, vibrating with each inhale, each exhale. The sound is vast, steady, patient. You kneel, pressing your palm against the wood. It is wet. The wetness soaks into your skin like ink into paper. And then you hear it's your name, not whispered, not spoken, simply breathed, as though the house itself has decided it belongs to you, and you belong to it. The return of the photograph, you rise. The frame on the table shifts. Its glass fogs faintly, as though it too breathes. Shapes form within the blur. Not the man, not the corridor. Your house, the chair, the lamp, the mantle. But the frame shows them empty. No one sits in the chair. No one leans near the lamp. No one watches the frame. You touch the glass. The reflection that should be yours is missing. You are not in the picture anymore. The rain deepens. The room breathes. The house exhales. You stand in a space that is both basement and cavern, both wood and stone, both photograph and memory. You realize now the descent was not to leave the house, but to enter it fully, to step into its hollow chest, where the rain has always lived, and in that hollow there is no leaving, only listening, only remembering. The rain continues, the house waits, and you drift further, deeper, letting the rhythm carry you into its endless loop. The rain has entered your sleep. It falls behind your eyes, now, steady as ever, shaping your dreams with its rhythm. When you drift, you do not leave the house. You fall deeper into it. And when you wake, you are never certain you have truly woken at all. The house is dreaming, and in its dream, you walk. The corridor that breathes you, open your eyes. Perhaps you only dream of opening them. The corridor waits. Long, narrow, lined with doors, you know, but tonight it breathes. The walls swell gently with each inhale, contract softly with each exhale. The doors rise and fall with the motion, like ribs. You walk slowly, each step timed with the breathing. It feels natural, as though you are part of the rhythm now. The second door, the mirror shudders faintly as you pass. Its handle rattles, eager, restless. You do not open it. Not yet. The third door, the one that never stays closed, is already ajar. Inside, the darkness hums, as if holding its own storm. You keep moving. The window without outside, at the end of the hall, the narrow window glows faintly. You lean close, expecting the blur of rain, the dim of trees, the suggestion of sky. But there is nothing, no outside. The glass shows only the house itself, reflected back. The lamp, the chair, the mantle, the frame. And standing at the mantle, staring into the photograph, is you. Not a reflection, not delayed, another you. The second you turns, slowly, until its pale eyes meet yours. And in that gaze, you realize this is not the house reflecting you. This is the house dreaming you. You retreat to the main room. The lamp is there, steady, humming softly. But the hum is no longer electrical. It is breath. The lamp inhales, exhales, faintly, like the attic, like the walls, like the rain. You place your hand on its base, warm, alive. The filament glows brighter, pulsing faintly with the rhythm of your heartbeat. And for a moment, you feel the house has borrowed your pulse, as if to keep the dream steady. The mantle holds the frame, crooked as always. But tonight, the man with pale eyes is gone. The corridor is gone. The stone is gone. Instead, the photograph shows your chair, and in the chair you, asleep. The sight is gentle, not frightening. You look peaceful there, head tilted, eyes closed, lips parted in slow rhythm. You lean closer, studying your sleeping face. The rain within the photograph falls quietly against the window at your side, and then your sleeping self exhales. A fog spreads across the glass of the frame, just as breath fogs a mirror. You blink, the fog fades. Your sleeping self smiles faintly, then stills again. You close your eyes. You tell yourself you will rest, even though you are not certain what part of you is awake anymore. And when the dream deepens, you descend the stairs again. They are not wood, they are not stone, they are both. They are memory. With each step, the rain grows softer, falling not on the house, not on the corridor, but within you, filling you with the same rhythm it has given the walls, the floors, the beams. At the base of the stairs, a voice waits. Not spoken, not loud, only present. It does not call you. It does not command you. It simply says your name, as though reminding the dream that you are part of it. You open your eyes again or dream that you do. The chair holds you. The lamp hums. The mantle waits. The rain falls. Nothing has changed, and yet everything has. Because now you know, you are not dreaming in the house. The house is dreaming you. And in its dream, you are safe. You are endless. You are rain. The rain continues. The dream loops. The house exhales. And you drift further, deeper, letting the rhythm carry you into its infinite sleep. The rain speaks in many tongues. You had thought it was only rhythm drops against glass, steady and patient. But tonight, you hear something else. Beneath the familiar pattern, quieter than breath, the rain carries voices. Not loud, not distinct, only impressions, murmurs folded into water. They are not strangers, they are not familiar. They are something in between, like the echo of words you almost remember from a dream that will not return. You rise from the chair. The lamp hums, guiding you with its warmth. The corridor stretches ahead, longer tonight, walls damp with a sheen of unseen rain. Each door whispers as you pass, not opening, not calling, just whispering, like lips pressed against wood. The first door sighs softly, a voice shaped like apology. The second hums with a vibration too low to follow. The third breathes your name, then falls silent, as though embarrassed to have spoken. You pause, you listen. The rain outside repeats each murmur, carrying it forward until the words dissolve into rhythm again. You open the second door. The mirror waits. Its surface is darker now, reflecting less light, swallowing more shadow. When you look, your reflection is gone. Instead, the mirror shows the room as it is, but empty. The chair stands without you. The lamp hums without witness. The mantle tilts its frame to no one, and then slowly figures appear. Not sharp, not whole, only shapes, blurred by water, gathering behind the chair, around the lamp, along the wall. They do not move, they only stand, and in the rhythm of the rain, you hear them breathe. You whisper, "Who are you?" The mirror fogs faintly, exhaling against your question. And from the fog, a voice replies, Not loud, not clear, but certain. We are what the house remembers. You close the door. The whispering continues behind it. The stairs greet you next. Tonight, they creak more softly, as though many feet move with yours, invisible, hidden in the same rhythm. You descend slowly. Each step answers, not only with wood or stone, but with echoes your steps, repeated by others, slightly delayed, slightly altered. At first, you think they are your own footsteps, bouncing back. But as you pause, the echoes do not. They keep walking downward, deeper, until the sound fades into silence. You are no longer the only one who walks here. At the base, the cellar cavern waits, damp air thick with the smell of moss, stone, and wood. But tonight it is not empty. The breathing is louder, multiplied. Not one inhale, not one exhale, but many, layered, each moving at its own pace, yet somehow aligned with the rain. The room feels full. Not crowded, not hostile, just full, like a church filled with those who came only to listen. You stand still. The breathing does not change. You whisper again, "Who are you?" And this time, the voices answer together, not in words, but in a rhythm of breath that matches yours, weaving you into their number. For the first time, you feel less like a visitor, more like part of the house's memory. On the table, the frame waits, crooked, quiet, patient. Inside, the photograph has changed again. The man with pale eyes is gone. The rain is gone. Instead, the photograph shows a room filled with shadows. Dozens, maybe more. They stand where you saw them in the mirror, blurred, faceless, still. They do not move. They only breathe. And in the faint fog of the glass, you see your own shape among them. Just another shadow, just another listener, standing forever in a room that remembers more than it reveals. You lean closer. The fog spreads from your breath. The shadows lean closer to. The rain deepens, steady, patient, endless. You return to the chair. The lamp hums. The mantle tilts. The clock forgets to tick. The voices do not follow. They do not need to. They are already here, folded into the walls, the floors, the rain. You close your eyes, and as you drift, you hear them once more. We are what the house remembers, and now it remembers you. The rain continues, the house exhales, and the voices breathe you into their endless loop. The rain has begun to shape your thoughts. It does not intrude, it does not force. It simply repeats, and in repetition, it softens the edges of what you were, smoothing you into something that belongs here. When you breathe, the house breathes. When you blink, the rain falls. When you pause, the silence fills with your name. And yet, you do not resist. The rhythm is too gentle to resist. The new reflection, you return to the mirror behind the second door. This time, your reflection waits exactly as you do, seated, still, breathing softly, but its face is different. Not fully, not all at once, only subtly altered. The eyes are paler. The mouth is parted slightly, the same way the man's was in the frame. The skin carries the shimmer of rain, as though drops linger even inside the glass. You raise your hand. It raises its hand, but when you lower yours, it does not. It keeps its palm pressed against the surface, waiting. You lean closer, uncertain, and in the fog of your breath, the reflection whispers, "Stay still, I will become you." You close the door. The hallway feels wrong tonight. Not longer, not darker, just rewritten. The walls have shifted. Small details no longer match what you remember. A frame missing. A crack in the plaster healed. The grain of the wood smoother. as though time itself has been edited. The third door, never truly closed, has changed most of all. It is open wide now. Inside, the darkness breathes with quiet certainty. You step closer, but the air grows heavy, thick as wet cloth. You stop at the threshold, and in that pause, you realize the house is not only remembering you, it is revising you. You move to the staircase. Tonight the steps do not creak where they always did. The familiar voices of the boards have gone silent, as though replaced. You test one with your heel, no sound, another, still silence. And when you look closer, you see it. The steps are new, smooth, untouched. The staircase has forgotten the memory of all who walked it. You descend anyway. Halfway down, you realize you are not sure if you have already descended. The walls ripple faintly, like water stirred. The air smells of moss, then of dust, then of smoke, as though the house is trying different memories on you, deciding which to keep. The cellar cavern waits, as always, but tonight the breathing is stronger. Dozens of voices, inhale, exhale, not loud, not frantic, only steady, like the tide. The shadows shift at the edges of the room, not closer, not farther, simply moving as though practicing new shapes. On the table, the frame leans in its crooked angle, but now it does not show the man. It does not show the corridor. It does not show you. It shows the chair, empty, the lamp, dark, the mantle, bare. Your place has been erased from the image. You touch the frame. The glass is warmer than before, pulsing faintly like skin. The rain softens, waiting. The house inhales, and for a moment you feel the unmistakable pressure of a hand against your back. Not heavy, not cruel, just guiding, rewriting your posture, your balance, your presence. You exhale. The hand exhales with you. You realize then, the house is writing you into itself, one breath at a time. You return to the main room, or perhaps you never left it. The chair holds you. The lamp hums. The mantle tilts its frame, but the photograph no longer shows you. The house has claimed the story now. You close your eyes. The rain repeats. The house exhales, and as you drift into the loop, you feel it fully. You are no longer being remembered. You are being rewritten. The rain does not ask permission. It falls. It repeats. It remembers. And tonight, you feel it moving through you, not on your skin, not against your ears, but inside your shape. You are no longer certain where the rain ends and you begin. You open the second door again. The mirror waits, but this time there is no reflection, only the room, empty, the chair, the lamp, the mantle, and behind them, shadows. They do not mimic you anymore. They do not pretend. They simply stand, blurred and still, as though waiting for something to step forward. You raise your hand. Nothing answers. The mirror has forgotten you. You close the door. The silence follows. The corridor without you, the hallway stretches, longer than before. Its walls glisten faintly, soaked with unseen rain. But something is missing. The creak of your footsteps no longer belongs to you. The sound comes a second too early, as if the house has decided to walk before you, to move in your place. You test it. You pause mid-step. The board groans anyway. The floor remembers your weight even without you. And in that moment, you realize the corridor does not need you to walk it anymore. It carries your shadow, whether you move or not. The stair that knows your name, you descend. The staircase sighs as always, but not at your touch. It sighs your name, low and steady, each board breathing it into the quiet. You place your hand on the railing. It feels warm, alive, as though it carries a pulse. When you whisper your name aloud, the stair answers in perfect rhythm, repeating it back. Not echo, not imitation memory. You are being remembered more clearly than you can remember yourself. At the base, the cellar cavern hums. The breathing is heavier now. Not frantic, not threatening, only vast. The shadows at the edge of the room shift. They are taller tonight, fuller, their edges sharper, as though they are being written into something more complete. You step closer. They do not retreat. They do not advance. They only breathe, all in rhythm, each exhale folding into the rain. And in their stillness, you see it. One of them has your shape. It stands where you stood, its head tilted the way you tilt yours, its shoulders bent the way yours bend when tired. It does not move. It does not need to. It already has you. The table holds the frame, crooked, quiet, patient. Inside, the photograph has shifted again. It shows the house, it shows the corridor, it shows the cellar, but it does not show you. Instead, it shows only shadows, breathing, waiting, steady as rain. You lean closer, the glass fogs with your breath. But this time, the fog does not fade, it stays. And in its blur, your outline appears among the others faint, dissolving, already less than whole. You return, or believe you do. The chair receives you. The lamp hums. The mantle tilts. Everything is as it was. But the air feels lighter where you sit, as though the house is no longer holding you, but only the memory of you. You close your eyes. The rain continues. The shadows breathe. And for the first time, you feel yourself fading, gently, peacefully, into the rhythm of the house's dream. The rain no longer feels like weather. It feels like a pulse. Every drop is a heartbeat. Every streak on glass is a breath. And tonight, you no longer walk through the house as yourself you. Move as its memory, folded into walls and floors you no longer own. You open the hallway door, and the air greets you like an old friend. The corridor stretches, longer than ever. Its walls drip steadily, rivulets of rain sliding down as though painted onto wood. The ceiling breathes. The doors lean slightly inward, as if listening. You step forward, but the creak beneath your foot is not yours. The sound happens before you move, as though the floor has already decided how you will walk. You pause. The sound continues anyway. The house has learned you too well. The second door opens with no hesitation. The mirror inside no longer shows you at all. It shows only the chair, the lamp, the mantel empty. Then the shadows step into view, crowding the reflection. Dozens of them, blurred, breathing, patient. One stands nearest. Its shape is yours, but its eyes are pale, as though washed clean by endless rain. You raise your hand. The shadow raises its hand too. But unlike before, it does not feel like imitation. It feels like ownership. The mirror has chosen. And it has chosen not to remember you as you were. You descend again. The staircase sighs, not as boards, not as stone, but as lungs. Each step is an inhale. Each pause is an exhale. You no longer feel you are walking down. You are being drawn inward, deeper, as though into the chest of something vast. And when you reach the cellar, you are calm. The shadows wait for you. They no longer linger at the edges. They have come forward, closer now, filling the room with their stillness. They breathe together, not frantic, not heavy, just steady, endless, like rain. You stand among them. For a moment, you feel your chest rise and fall differently, as though your lungs are not yours, but theirs. And then you realize there is no difference. You breathe. They breathe. It is the same breath. On the table, the frame tilts. Its glass gleams faintly, fogged with water that does not dry. Inside, there is no corridor, no man, no empty chair, only rain, endless, falling, soft, hypnotic. And within the rain, if you look long enough, you see shapes, shadows, blurred and breathing, folded into the storm. You are among them, already there, already written. You return, or believe you do. The chair, the lamp, the mantle, all as they should be. But when you touch the chair's arm, the wood does not feel solid. It feels like memory, like a dream of wood, replayed again and again. You close your eyes. The rain does not stop. The house exhales. The shadows accept you, and you let go of the idea of being separate at all. The rain has not changed. It has not grown stronger. It has not weakened. It has not stopped. It falls, as it always has, patient and steady, folding the night into its rhythm. Each drop is a syllable, each streak a sentence, and together they weave a language older than thought. You sit listening, as you always do, your body still, your breath shallow, your eyes half closed. But tonight, beneath the repetition, something stirs. It begins with the sensation of being watched, not sharp, not sudden, only a quiet awareness pressing against your skin. You open your eyes, slowly, and let the room drift back into view. The chair holds you. The lamp hums. The mantle tilts its crooked frame, and in the frame, he is there again. The man with the pale eyes. He had vanished before dissolved into shadows, replaced by rain. But tonight he has returned, steady in his place, fixed in the blur of his rain-soaked street. At first you think nothing has changed. He stands as he always stood. Stiff posture, pale eyes, mouth slightly open, the ghost of breath waiting to escape. But as you lean closer, you notice the difference. His mouth is closed. The faint parting of lips that once suggested a word now rests in silence. It makes him seem stronger, more certain, as though he no longer needs to speak. His pale eyes, clearer than before, seem brighter, their light cutting through the blur of rain behind him. And the street that once melted into haze now sharpens. You can see the stones beneath his feet, dark with water, slick with endless fall. Behind him, the corridor stretches. Not stone, not shadow, not wood, rain. An entire passage carved not from matter, but from falling water. You lean closer. The glass fogs faintly with your breath. And, for the first time, the man blinks. It is not dramatic, not sudden. It is slow, patient, deliberate. The kind of blink a sleeper makes in the middle of a dream. You freeze. Your own eyes sting with the effort of not moving, not betraying the shock that rises quietly through your chest. Then, just as slowly, he opens them again, pale, endless, knowing. You step back. The lamp hums, louder, as if sensing your hesitation. The rain thickens for a moment, louder against the window, filling the silence with its loop. But when you lean forward again, he has not changed. He stands still, silent, patient, as though nothing happened. And yet you know what you saw. Behind him, the passage of rain glows faintly, not with light, not with fire, but with reflection. Each drop bends the world around it, so that the corridor seems to shimmer in endless motion. It does not invite, it does not refuse, it simply waits. You stare into it until your eyes ache. The rhythm of falling water pulls at your breath, aligning it with its own. Inhale, exhale, drop, drop. For a moment, you forget where you are. The chair beneath you dissolves. The lamp fades. The mantle tilts away. Only the corridor remains. and in its falling walls you hear your name, not spoken aloud, not whispered, only shaped into rhythm, folded into the fall. Your name, said the way rain might remember it. You rise, your legs tremble faintly, as though waking from long sleep. The hallway greets you with its familiar length, its closed doors, its quiet patience. But tonight, it feels wetter, as if each board has absorbed a century of storms. Your footsteps leave no prints, yet you feel dampness on your soles, as though walking across hidden puddles. The first door sighs softly when you pass. The second door rattles faintly, eager to open. The third door leans wider, its darkness heavier than usual. You pause at the second. The mirror waits behind it. The memory of reflections that lag, that whisper, that breathe in their own rhythm presses at you. You do not open it, not tonight. The man in the frame has returned, and his eyes are enough. You return to the main room. The frame tilts, as always, crooked, but the man's eyes do not tilt, they follow. Not with movement, not with shift, but with attention. The way moonlight follows you across a field, never altering, yet always present. You meet them, steady as you can. They are not cruel, they are not kind, they are simply endless. And in their endlessness, you feel something loosen in your chest. It is not fear, not dread, it is surrender. The rain softens, approving, the lamp steadies, the house exhales. You remain standing there, caught in his gaze, until your body forgets to measure time. You sit again. The chair receives you, its wood sighing faintly. The lamp hums, steady now, no longer faltering. The rain continues, weaving the night into itself. The man waits in the frame. His pale eyes remain patient, eternal. The corridor of rain behind him falls without end, every drop repeating the same rhythm you have always known. And slowly, gently, you realize he is not outside the house. He is not in the photograph. He is in the rain. And the rain is everywhere. You close your eyes. The rain falls. The man breathes. The house remembers. And the loop continues. The rain no longer waits at the windows. It no longer belongs to the sky. Tonight, the rain has taken the shape of walls. It has learned how to stand upright, how to bend into corners, how to stretch into distance. The house has become rain, and the rain has become house. You rise from the chair, steadying yourself with the armrest. The lamp hums faintly, warning you, but it cannot hold you here. The hallway stretches ahead, but it is not wood, not stone, not plaster, it is water. The floorboards ripple beneath your weight, shimmering like puddles. The walls drip endlessly, not down, not sideways, but inward, folding rain into themselves. The ceiling is a dark sheet, beating softly with drops that do not fall, only hang. You take your first step, the board sighs, the water sighs, and the sound is the same. The first door waits, its knob glistens, its wood pulses faintly with moisture, as though water runs behind it in veins. You touch the knob, it drips against your hand, though no rain falls from above. You do not turn it, not yet. You move on. The second door trembles faintly, not from draft, not from breath. From rain, the mirror waits behind it, you know. But tonight, the mirror is unnecessary. You are already walking inside reflection. The third door hangs wide, not ajar, wide. Beyond it, nothing but rain, not room, not corridor, only falling water, endless, like a curtain of drops waiting for you to step through. You stop at the threshold. The air here is heavy, cool, damp. The curtain sways, as though moved by a hand you cannot see. You step through, there is no impact, no splash, only silence, and then you are inside it. A corridor built not from walls, but from streams of falling water. The ground is slick stone, but each stone is blurred by the veil of drops. You walk slowly. Every step sends ripples outward, yet the ripples do not break the fall. The rain continues, seamless, as though it has already accounted for your movement, repeating you before you exist. The air is thicker here. Each breath feels like drinking. Each blink feels like sinking. You pause. The corridor does not. It stretches endlessly, its falling walls, repeating, repeating, repeating. At first, you think it is only the sound of water on stone, but then you hear it again, your name not spoken by voice, formed by rhythm, drop by drop, syllable by syllable. Your name folds into the rain's steady loop. You whisper it back. The corridor answers, echoing, repeating, not louder, not fainter, just constant, as though it has always known you, always waited. You walk further. The repetition grows, softer, soothing. Your name loses its shape. It becomes only sound, and then only rain. The corridor bends, but when you turn, you realize it is not bent at all. The walls ripple, folding distance into itself. The door behind you is gone. The house is gone. There is only rain, and yet you are calm. The corridor does not threaten, it only repeats. Every step feels familiar, as though you have walked this passage before. Perhaps you have. Perhaps you never left it. At last, another doorway appears. It is not wood, it is not stone. It is another curtain of water, thicker than the first, falling harder, blurring everything beyond it. You stop before it. The rain leans against your skin. Cool, patient, waiting, you reach out. Your hand passes through. Behind it, only more rain. Another corridor, another loop. In the blur, you see them. Pale eyes, they are not sharp, they are not near, but they are there, watching you from beyond the curtain, waiting. You take a breath. The rain inhales with you. You step forward. The corridor exhales. The curtain parts. The eyes blink. You return. Or perhaps you never left. The chair holds you. The lamp hums. The mantle tilts. The frame waits, crooked, and inside the frame the man with pale eyes. He does not move, he does not speak, but behind him the corridor of rain stretches, endless, falling, infinite. You close your eyes, the rain falls, the corridor breathes, the eyes remember, and the loop continues. The rain has withdrawn to the edges of the house, not gone, never gone, but waiting, always waiting. The night has grown long, longer than it should, longer than it has any right to be, and yet you do not feel the weight of exhaustion, only a slow, steady rhythm pulsing through the air. Not breath, not heartbeat, something else. You rise again. The chair groans softly, damp with memory. Your hand drifts across the mantle. The frame tilts. The pale-eyed figure still waits inside, blurred by glass, rain behind him like a second world. But your attention shifts to the sound, to the pulse. The sound draws you down the hallway, past the walls that drip softly, past the shadows that breathe. There, at the end, a door stands slightly open. From within, the sound emerges, not the familiar tick of a clock, not the human measurement of passing moments. Something slower, something heavier. Tick, pause, drop, tick, pause, drop. You enter. The clock, the room is nearly empty. Its wallpaper peels in curling strips, damp with time. The floorboards bend faintly, swollen with water. At the far wall stands the clock, tall, wooden, its case swollen and blackened by dampness. A pendulum sways inside, but it does not move as it should. It swings with the rain. Each drop outside guides its arc, left with the drop, right with the drop. It does not measure hours, it measures rainfall. You step closer. The face of the clock stares back at you, but the numbers are wrong. They are not numbers at all. They are shapes, symbols, half circles, broken loops, crescents dissolving into lines that curl into spirals. Not hours, not minutes. Echoes. The hands do not point. They do not move around the circle. They pulse. Every second door, what should be a second, they jolt. Not forward, but inward, toward the center. Each pulse shakes the glass, trembling with condensation. And you realize the hands are not hands. Not metal, not crafted. They are drops of water. Thin streams drawn upward, defying gravity, bending toward the center, as though time itself were draining into a funnel. The longer you watch, the more certain you become. This clock is not measuring time, it is draining it. The pendulum, you crouch before it. The pendulum sways slowly. Its weight is a droplet, impossibly suspended. A bead of water that never falls, only swings back and forth, pulled by no chain you can see. Each swing sends ripples through the air. The walls respond, shuddering faintly, as though the rain outside follows its command. The room feels heavier. Breath slows. Heart slows. You touch your chest. The rhythm of your pulse matches the pendulum. Not yours anymore. The clocks. The whisper of hours. You lean closer. Your reflection bends in the glass. It does not match your movements. It lags. When you blink, your reflection waits a second longer. When you tilt your head, it tilts too far, as though testing a different version of the gesture. Then it speaks, not with mouth, with sound. A whisper, faint as the brush of rain on leaves. You are not outside it. You are inside the measure, inside the rain. You step back, heart unsteady, but the pendulum steadies it again. The hands pulse harder. Drops drag inward. The symbols at the edges blur. The room tilts. Or maybe you do. The ceiling shivers, sagging with moisture. The floor ripples faintly. And the rain outside beats louder. Tick, drop, tick, drop. The clock is not counting forward. It is circling, pulling. You feel your own memories tugged, dragged like water down a drain, not disappearing but repeating. The hallway, the chair, the pale eyes, the corridor of rain. All of it folds inward, again and again. The clock stops, but the rain continues. Or perhaps the rain is what has stopped, and you are only now noticing. You touch the glass. It is warm, impossibly warm, as though alive. Your reflection does not follow. It stares at you, still unblinking. And then the whisper again. You will return. All clocks return. All rain returns. The pendulum halts mid-swing. The droplet trembles, about to fall. You wait for it. You expect the drop, but it never comes. The moment stretches, not forward, not backward, only outward, rippling in all directions. And you understand the clock has placed you inside itself. You are no longer measuring, you are being measured. You close your eyes. When you open them, you are back in the chair. The lamp hums softly. The mantle tilts. The pale eyes blink. But the pulse remains. Not outside, inside you now. A rhythm that will not end. A clock that does not tell hours, but rain. The night stretches, longer still. The rain falls, steady, and you fall with it. The rain is patient with language. It does not hurry a word. It does not force a meaning. It simply falls until the syllables learn how to rest. You sit in the chair and hear it try. The sound threads itself through the lamp's faint hum, over the clock's almost memory of ticking, along the angled face of the frame that refuses to be straight. The house encourages the rain the way a teacher encourages a child, by listening more than speaking. The first word is not a word at all. It is breath shaped against soaked wood, a hush collecting where plaster swells, the vowel of a gentle exhale. You hear it between drops, between your own breaths, where the night stays warm and still. The walls answer by darkening, their paint taking on a deeper tone, as if they blush from the effort of trying to speak. You do not rise, you listen. The room seems closer for it, each corner leaning in the way people do when a story begins quietly. It begins in the north wall, the one the rain loves best. A line of damp feathers downward, then halts, then spreads. Inside that slowing is a shape like a sound. Long, low, your name without letters. When you whisper, your voice goes nowhere. It rests on the air like a moth and chooses not to fly. The house takes the whisper anyway, folds it into its wood, and exhales a version that belongs here more than it belongs to you. Another line forms, another not quite word, another attempt. You think of the mirror in the second room, how reflections learned you slowly, how they practiced delay until delay was a kindness. The wall attempts the same. Meaning arrives half a second after sound, like a hand finding the other in the dark. You tell the wall it is doing well. The wall darkens in gratitude. The passage outside the door smells like damp bark and cooled iron. The corridors is longer again. Rain has been practicing distance in there. It has learned how to fold a hole without breaking it. You do not go to it, not yet. The night is best when you grant it a single room. You close your eyes and give the house each breath. The lamp answers by steadying its filament. No flicker, no complaint. The floor answers with a soft warping back to level, the way a sleeping body adjusts itself without waking. The ceiling answers with a long, intact silence that makes every small sound chosen. The voice tries a consonant. It lands like a fingertip on the back of your neck. Not cold, not warm, known. If you want, you say to everything at once, you can borrow my breath to make it. A draft moves. The house nods. You stand and place your palm against the north wall. Beneath paint, beneath plaster, beneath whatever the rain has turned into. Tonight you feel a mouth. Not a human mouth, only the possibility of one. A roundness that knows how to shape the air. Here, you whisper, start at the center. Do not worry about ends. The mouth tries, wetness gathers. The wall leans. A syllable blooms like fog. It is nothing you recognize and everything you understand. Again, you say. The mouth tries again. This time, the sound arrives with a gentle consonant at its edge, the weight of a letter turned sideways, polite enough to ask whether it may enter your ear. It may. You do not defend yourself against this. Again, the third time is closer, a near name, a not quite to. Your chest loosens anyway. You place your forehead to the wall, and the rain places its own on the other side. Two coolnesses catching and resting together through the thin kindness of plaster. When you inhale, you count slowly, one for the window that still blurs the world, one for the chair that keeps the shape of your resting, one for the clock that refuses to explain, one for the frame that believes in its angle. 4 counts. then hold, then release. Take this, you tell the house, it will be easier. The house does not take, it receives. On the next exhale, the voice in the wall arrives, inside your counting, like water finding the groove carved for it. The sound is a braided thing now, made from your breath and from rain that has known too much stone. What are you, you ask, softly, in the tone we use with people who have stayed long enough to be family. The voice gives back a shape of your question that has forgotten the question mark. It keeps only wonder, that is its answer. The corner by the bookshelf learns grammar. You don't know how you know, but you do. The damp there organizes itself into the pause that holds a subject and prepares it for a verb. Not a single word said, yet the promise of saying thickens the air. Across from it, near the baseboard, a phrase begins and declines to choose an end. It lies there, open-mouthed, taking shallow breaths, content to be possibility. Every good lullaby is an unfinished sentence, something the mind can walk inside forever. You test a line. When the rain remembered my name, you leave it there. The wall finishes it by not finishing, by leaning the sentence back into the body to sleep. You pass the first door without opening. It remembers puddles it has not owned, and you will not place more weight in it tonight. The second door inhales. The mirror is awake again. The third, as ever, compromises. Not shut, not open, an ethics of almost. The fourth door, the one that should be the end of the hall, has learned something new. It keeps a vow of silence. Even the knob refuses to shine. Behind it, the house has laid a library made of hollows, rows and rows of empty, immaculate spaces meant for books that will never need binding. Each hollow holds the shape of a story spoken slowly into wood grain by someone who will never leave the chair. You do not step in. The hollows would accept you and would not know how to let you out gently. You admire from the threshold the way one admires sleep from the doorway of a child's room. Back in the main room, the voice moves from the wall to the air. Not far, not bold, just a little distance, like a shy singer trusted with the quietest note. Your breath braces it without asking. It adds no syllables. It elongates those already found, until vowels turn to corridors and consonants turn to benches, and you can sit inside each, listening to nothing with company. The man in the frame honors the experiment by choosing not to blink. His corridor of rain keeps falling across itself, making new ages out of the same second. His mouth, still closed approval, is a closed mouth that has learned not to disturb the surface. If there is a question, you tell the house. Ask it slowly enough that the answer can fall asleep on its way. The lamp brightens half a shade and returns to what it was. The floor knows the order of your steps and lays an index for them. Left heel, third board, small sigh, right toe, fifth board, dry click. The near knot, the far knot, the place that always gives without complaint. At each entry the house adds a line. Here the breath lengthened. Here the heart had almost remembered a rush. Here the eyes learned a slower blink. If someone asked later how you were made, the floor could show them in alphabet. Overhead the attic refuses to behave separately. Its planks expand on the long vowel, contract on the quiet consonant. A patient accordion played from a distance by an older relative you never met but always knew would love you. Between boards, the thin light shifts its weight from foot to foot, content to be counted as another moving thing in the house. On the mantel, the frame keeps its rule. Crooked, not an error, a principle. The eye loses itself happily when given a slight mercy from straightness. You have not visited the photograph's corridor tonight. Rain owns your time and distributes it carefully. Still, when your glance meets the glass, a doorway appears where there was none. not a door, a doorway. The distinction is the difference between asking and welcoming. The corridor of rain cedes a little width so that the opening can stand. No hinge is necessary where falling is the law. A single draft passes through and gives you the smell of stone that has never dried. You could step through. You could remain. The house likes you exactly at this threshold, an excellent place to grow a voice that prefers rooms to questions. Not tonight, you tell the patient space. Tonight, I am a wall. The doorway nods without moving. You learn something, then, about how the night covers a listener. Not with single silence, but with many small ones sewn by hand. The hush by the lamp where wires agree to be modest. The hush near the window where the drop slows to consider its weight. The hush below the chair where wood bargains with gravity and does not betray how kindly it is treated. Each piece of quiet, slightly different temperature, the quilt holds. The voice in the wall changes pitch by almost nothing. That almost is the precise measure of gentleness. You answer by relaxing your tongue, letting vowels widen. This is not speaking. It is leaving the mouth ajar in case rest wants to come sit for a while. The first rooms you ever slept in arrive without being called. A ceiling with shallow cracks shaped like drying rivers. A window that knew how to thunder without lightning. A bed made of whispers where nobody ever raised a voice. They overlap your now room without fighting for place. The house permits duplicates if each agrees to be it. You let the old window put its frame down over the new window. You let the old floor put its knots down over the new floor. You let the old air sit in the chair with you and share its patience. Nothing is replaced. Everything is added. The perfect arithmetic for staying. Somewhere 3 doors away, a chair you have not yet used lets out a single memory of a breath taken by a visitor who knew how to leave kindly. The sound arrives like a finger drawn once through wet dust. It returns, not as word, as presence with a last letter missing on purpose. Your name becomes the place where the voice is allowed to rest between attempts. The walls understand this faster than you do. They hold your name the way the hand holds a candle in a church with too much wind. Cupped, sure, prepared to be burned a little without complaint. You remember the clock that measured rain and feel the drop inside your chest, decide not to fall. Your heart appreciates the decision and makes one of its own. It will keep today. It will not discard the hour by sending it forward. Stay, you say to the hour. Learn to be heavy without becoming hard. The hour follows the lesson. You stand, you straighten the frame. The man's eyes do not object. The corridor behind him adjusts its falling to honor the gesture. But when you step back, the frame returns to its chosen angle as if to remind you that refusal can be a generosity. You nod and leave it. Choice deserves reward. At the dining table, a chair is almost in line. You give it the inch it has asked for all evening. The table thanks you with a muscle's worth of settling. In another room, a drawer has been breathing shallow. You open it an inch, and the breath deepens. In the hall, you let the air move past your shoulder like someone late and determined not to ask for pardon. No one is offended. The house grows easier all around you the way a body does when the pillow finally finds the right height. You enter the passage and realize it is not longer. It is quieter. Distance is a noise, and the hall has chosen to turn it down. Doors appear closer not because they have moved, but because the clatter of far has been mended. You pass the mirror's door without giving it your face. It has work to do forgetting you and must not be embarrassed by your help. The third door remains almost you remain also. At the end, the window has misplaced outside again. It displays only the room you're in, and within that room displays again the window that displays the room. A useful, infinite practice for a mind that must relearn that endings are only loops written politely. You breathe onto the glass and watch your fog merge with the one the house has prepared for you. Two clouds, concluding they were always one weather. When you return, the chair already knows the angle of your shoulder and offers it. You accept. The lamp knows how your cheek likes to be warmed and grants exactly that no more, which is also kindness. The clock declines to tick. Words often fail on nights when listening is better. The frame keeps its answer. The voice in the wall has learned enough that it does not need to try every breath. It stays quiet sometimes and lets your breathing do the speaking for it. A student who has learned to take notes in stillness. What did you want from me? You ask the house, knowing it will answer by refusing the grammar of wanting. It answers yes by being itself more honestly than before. Boards that creaked because they were alone now creaked because they are with you. Shadows that used to lengthen out of hunger lengthen out of contentment. Rain that once pressed to be heard presses to be held. The house does not have a word for this and does not wish to choose one. You are grateful for its caution. You give yourself permission to look again. The frame greets your eyes the way a path greets a foot that will not rush. The man with the pale eyes stands where standing has the meaning it deserves. His closed mouth is a kindness to vowels that would have been forced to work too hard. Behind him, the corridor of rain changes texture, not pattern. A thread of slower fall emerges at the left edge like a brook deciding to remember the hill that made it. At the exact center of the image, a place appears where you could step through if you promised not to bring need with you. You make no promise you cannot keep. The place remains anyway. Patient invitation that understands patience is the only invitation that does not bruise. Another night, you tell it, with thanks and without apology. The photograph brightens by the width of a breath. You hum without sound and the house hums with you in sound you cannot hear but feel. In your throat the pitch is low and rests its head on the floor. In the beams the pitch is higher and prefers to be a moth on the window. Both are right. Between them a third pitch happens that belongs only to rain. The words you would have used are unnecessary. The tune is a stair walked without feet. At the top the attic loosens. At the bottom the cellar forgets to be deep. On the landing the air says it is proud of everyone for staying. You fall asleep a little without sleeping, the kind that lets the mind keep one eye open to watch over the animal of the body as it climbs into the blanket. When you riseth, what happens can be called rising the room, has already placed its versions of you in the places they would be if you had been there all along. One sits in the chair because sitting is an intelligent verb. One stands by the window because watching is a form of feeding. One keeps a palm on the wall because touch is the first alphabet. You step carefully into yourself. The others step out without argument and stand where shadows rest between jobs. Nothing is wasted. Every posture will be used again at a later hour, when the rain needs to demonstrate what a person is to a new corner. Under your hand, the wall tries your name again. It chooses fewer letters this time and somehow says more. You agree, the best names are edited. The night achieves that point it reaches only on certain rains, the point where time does not want to be counted, and numbers would be embarrassed to be seen. The house knows to keep company with such nights by tidying the edges of every sound. Hinge grease becomes a prayer. The lamp's filament remembers to be kind. The floor unknots itself, not to be perfect, but to be tired in the right places. You draw one long breath and place it in the room like a glass of water on a bedside table. The room nods. It may sip later. Good, you tell the voice, which is also the wall, which is also the rain, which is also the home you have become. You speak better than you think. The voice, relieved of thinking, speaks best. The chair takes you back without the slight protest it used to make. The lamp warms the left side of your face and not the right. The right belongs to the window's cooler kindness. The frame keeps its angle. The clock declines to judge. In the wall, the mouth that is not a mouth, or perhaps is one, becomes only breath again. The house remembers that this was always enough. Your own breath answers by lengthening to the measure a night requires, when it has decided to be endless without being long. The rain falls, the room listens, the voice rests, and you drift inward, carried by a language that needs no words, through walls that learned to speak only so they could teach you how to sleep. The loop closes around you like a gentle hand. It is not a circle you are trapped inside. It is a ring someone wears to remember a promise. You keep the promise by closing your eyes. The rain keeps it by never stopping. The night had not changed. It remained the same unending night, the same curtain of rainfall whispering against the windows, a hush that seemed older than memory itself. Every droplet carried its own rhythm, and yet together they formed one seamless murmur, a lull that pressed against the walls and seeped into the hallways. I walked slowly down the corridor, my footsteps soft against the wooden floorboards, and it felt as though I were drifting, not moving at all, simply circling within a dream. That was when I noticed the clock. It had not been there before. Of that I was certain. A tall grandfather clock, its frame carved from darkened wood that shone faintly in the dim light, stood pressed against the wall at the end of the passage. Its face was pale, its glass fogged with the faintest condensation, and inside, the pendulum hung motionless, a gleaming brass weight caught in silence. I approached with hesitation. The closer I came, the more the air cooled, as though the clock radiated a dampness of its own. My fingertips brushed the wood. It was cold, too cold for something indoors, as if the rain itself had been soaked into the frame. And beneath the smooth grain, I felt it faint, but undeniable, a pulse, not a mechanical vibration, not the click of gears, but something more organic, like the slow beat of a heart. The face of the clock read 3:03. Both hands pointed neatly, precisely, unshaken. Yet when I blinked and looked again, I could have sworn the minute hand had shifted by the smallest fraction, as though it moved only when unseen. The illusion was unsettling. Though not terrifying, it was the kind of unease that slumbered deep in the mind, where one questions what is seen, but does not dare to prove it wrong. I lingered there, watching. The rain whispered in its endless hymn, and the silence of the clock blended into it. But every so often, just barely, there was another sound, an echo of ticking, far away, faint, as if it came not from the clock, but from the bones of the house itself. A hidden pulse, buried deep in the wood. I pressed my ear against the glass. For a moment, I heard nothing but the rain. Then, slowly, something else emerged. Not a tick, not the sound of machinery, but a breath. Shallow, drawn out, almost human. As though something inside the clock was breathing in rhythm with me. I pulled away, but the air carried the impression with me. It followed. I stepped back and watched the pendulum again. It had not moved, but in its brass surface I thought I saw a shimmer, a reflection that was not mine. A figure, faint as fog, watching me from inside. I closed my eyes, the rain drumming softly, hypnotically, on the windows of the hall. And when I opened them again, the reflection was gone, but the face of the clock had changed. The hands now pointed to 3:04. Time had shifted, but only when I had looked away. The night did not stir. The rain did not break. Yet deep inside the clock, I felt the house itself waiting, holding its breath, as if the silence of the gears was only a disguise. And I knew whatever had been trapped in that clock was not a measure of time, but something older, something watching, patient, content to move only when no one dared to look. The rain was heavier that night. It pressed harder against the glass, as though trying to get in, as though the house itself was a hollow shell drowning in the constant downpour. The sound was thick and endless, filling every space with its rhythm, wrapping itself around the walls like a second skin. I wandered the corridors without direction, guided not by thought but by the strange rhythm of the storm. It seemed to lead me, to tug at me, whispering through every tap of water against wood. Eventually, I came to a door I had not seen before. It was small, narrow, wedged between two bookshelves that lined a hallway I thought I knew well. The wood was plain, the handle tarnished with age, and yet the sight of it made my breath slow. The door opened without resistance. Inside, there was a room, dim and empty. At first glance, it looked ordinary, but the longer I stood within its threshold, the more wrongness I felt. I stepped in and closed the door softly behind me. It was not the air. It was not the damp smell of wood. It was the shape. The room had no corners. The walls curved seamlessly into one another, bending as if the house itself had been softened like wax and molded into this strange shape. Where there should have been angles, there was only curve. Where there should have been definition, there was smoothness. My eyes tried to find the edges, the places where wall met floor, where wall met ceiling, but there were none. The room swallowed its own structure, offering no boundaries, no certainty. The rain whispered above, as though distant now, muffled. The sound was still there, but muted, softened, as though the room itself had closed me away from it. I rubbed my eyes, unsettled, and when I opened them, the walls seemed to pulse faintly, as though they were breathing. I sat down on the floor. I do not know why. Perhaps it was the heaviness of the air, or perhaps it was the pull of the strange geometry, but I lowered myself carefully and listened. There was a sound, not rain, not the familiar creak of wood, but something deeper. A faint humming, as though the very air was resonating. It was not loud. It was hardly there at all. Yet when I leaned back against the wall, I felt it vibrating through my spine. A steady, low tremor, like the hidden heart of the house itself. I closed my eyes. The humming deepened. It was not mechanical, not natural. It carried a pattern, a rhythm that was almost a voice. It rose and fell gently, hypnotically, the same way the rain did. I breathed with it, let it sink into me, and for a moment I felt as though I were floating. The floor beneath me softened, the walls curved closer, and everything blurred into one seamless sensation. When I opened my eyes again, the walls were no longer smooth. They were shifting. The surface rippled faintly, as though it were made of liquid rather than wood. Shapes formed and dissolved, faces, perhaps, or shadows that wanted to be faces. They came forward and sank back, flickering in silence, their mouths opening without sound. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, but the vision remained. I stood, my heart slower now, not racing but heavy, as though weighed down by the strange calm of the room. The walls curved in closer, not shrinking but enclosing, and I realized the room was alive. There were no corners, because corners marked boundaries. Boundaries meant separation. But here, in this room, there was no separation, no distance, only one continuous surface, folding me into itself. The humming grew louder. I pressed my hand against the wall. It was warm, pulsing faintly, and beneath that pulse was something else, something like a whisper, though not in any language I knew. I leaned closer. The wall whispered back. Not words, not phrases, but sounds, drawn out and heavy, resonating in my chest, as though the wall spoke through me instead of to me. I could not understand them, but I felt them. They pulled at my thoughts, untangling them, loosening them until I could not tell where my mind ended and the room began. The rain outside continued its endless murmur, distant now, a memory of sound. And then I understood. The room was not empty. It had never been empty. The room itself was the presence, the absence of corners, the seamless curves. It was a body, an enclosure, a thing that lived not in form but in space. And I was inside it. I closed my eyes again, and the whispers filled me. Not frightening, not harsh, but endless. A loop, like rain, like breathing, like sleep. And slowly, as I sank into that rhythm, I felt myself drift, as though the room were rocking me, as though I were no longer walking through the house at all, but being carried gently into the hollow of something vast, something eternal, something that dreamed as I dreamed. When I finally opened my eyes, I was outside the door again. The rain was loud once more, pressing heavily against the windows, reminding me of the world beyond. I turned back to the door, but the wall was bare. The bookshelves stood side by side, with no gap between them. The door was gone, yet in the back of my mind, the whisper still lingered. And with every drop of rain that struck the glass, I heard it soft, patient, without end. The rain had not stopped for days. It moved in cycles, soft 1 hour, heavy the next. But always there an unbroken curtain between me and the world outside. It was in the windows, in the roof beams, in the gutters that groaned with water. It seemed to press against the house with weight, as if the storm were not only around me, but above me, keeping me sealed in place. That night, I followed the sound of dripping. It was not unusual an old house always leaked somewhere, but this drip was slow, deliberate, louder than it should have been. It echoed faintly through the upstairs hallway, pulling me toward a narrow stairwell I had always avoided, the attic. The wooden steps creaked beneath me as I climbed. The rain above was steady, 1,000 fingertips brushing the roof. And yet, the closer I came to the attic door, the more muffled it seemed, as though the rain, so constant, did not quite reach there. I pushed open the door. The attic smelled of dust and old paper. The air was heavier here, thick with age, as though the house stored its forgotten memories beneath the roof. Shadows clung to every beam, every trunk, every folded sheet. The single window at the far end rattled faintly in the wind, streaked with rain that blurred the night beyond. I stepped inside. The drip was louder here, though I could not see its source. It was not water falling into a bucket, not the splatter of rain snaking through the roof. It was slower, thicker, as though each drop carried weight. I followed the sound between the stacks of boxes, through narrow paths where the air pressed close, and then I found it. In the farthest corner of the attic, where the roof slanted low and the beams bent inward, there stood an object I did not remember seeing before. It was covered with a sheet, pale and damp at the edges, stained where the drops had fallen. The sound was coming from beneath it. I hesitated. The rain outside whispered like static, a background noise that seemed to lean closer, waiting. My hand shook slightly as I pulled back the sheet. Underneath was a trunk, not a normal trunk, not the kind built of wood and iron. This one was different, made of something darker, heavier, a material I could not name. Its surface seemed to drink the light, swallowing every flicker of the dim bulb overhead. The lock was missing, the latch broken, and yet it remained closed, as though sealed by weight alone. The drip continued, not from the ceiling, but from the trunk itself. A slow bead of moisture formed along its edge, fattened, and fell to the floor with a sound far too loud for a single drop. I crouched closer. The air thickened, hot and close, pressing against my face. I touched the trunk lightly with my fingertips. The surface was damp, not with water, but with something warmer, stickier. I pulled my hand back at once, heart slowing but not racing. It was as though the attic itself expected this rhythm, as though it had happened before, many times. I sat back on my heels and listened. The trunk did not move. The drip did not change. Yet the longer I stared, the more I realized the sound was not echoing through the attic, it was echoing through me. Each drop vibrated in my chest, heavy, pulling, sinking into my bones. I closed my eyes. The attic swayed gently, a rocking not caused by wind but by the slow heartbeat of something waiting. The rain outside became distant, almost unreal, a memory of sound. And in that muffled space, I heard something else, a voice, not clear, not sharp, but low and endless, as though it had been speaking beneath the rain all along. It did not call my name, did not speak in words, yet I understood. It wanted to be opened. I stood, slowly, as though in a dream. My hand found the latch. It came free easily, as though it had only ever been waiting for touch. The lid lifted with surprising silence. Inside was nothing. At least, nothing I could see. The trunk was dark, impossibly dark, as though it contained not space, but absence. The shadows inside were thick, pressing upward, and as I leaned closer, I felt them breathe. The attic bent around me, the walls warping slightly, the beams bending inward. The rain outside pulsed in rhythm with the darkness within. Drop by drop, heartbeat by heartbeat. And then I saw them, hands, not reaching, not clawing, but resting gently against the inside of the trunk, as though pressed against glass. Pale, faint, shifting beneath the dark surface. They did not move toward me, did not grasp, only lingered there, waiting. I closed the trunk at once. The attic sighed, as though disappointed, and the rain outside returned in full volume, flooding my ears with its relentless sound. The drip was gone. The sheet lay crumpled on the floor. The trunk sat silent, sealed again, though the damp stain spread slowly across the wood beneath it. I backed away, step by step, until I was at the stairwell once more. I closed the attic door softly behind me. The rain welcomed me back with its constant rhythm, whispering down the windows, filling the house with sound. I stood in the hall, listening, waiting. But even now, each drop of rain carried an echo, the slow, deliberate rhythm of the attic, the patient sound of something waiting. The rain had been falling for so long that I no longer counted the hours. It was simply there, woven into the fabric of each breath, each step, each thought. At night, when silence might have been heavy, the rain filled the empty spaces. By day, when the light pressed faintly through grey clouds, the rain softened the edges of things, as though the world were only half remembered. I had grown used to the house answering the storm, the creak of wood, the groan of beams, the sigh of windows pressing against their frames. These sounds were natural, I told myself. The rain touched everything, and the house only responded. But I had begun to feel it differently. It was not only that the house answered the rain, it was that the house listened. I noticed it first in the pauses. When I walked through the hallways, the boards did not groan until I stopped moving. When I lay in bed, the drip in the corner of the ceiling did not fall until I shifted in the sheets. The rhythm of the house waited for me, as though my stillness gave it permission to move. And always, the rain in the background. Soft, hypnotic, steady. A blanket of sound that seemed to cover me, even when the house leaned closer. That evening, I sat in the living room with the lamps off, the window open a crack to let in the smell of wet earth. The rain whispered down the glass, a sheet of silver lines. I listened for the house. It did not take long. A step on the stairwell, a sigh from the far wall, a faint shift in the ceiling above, as though someone or something were moving slowly through the upper rooms. I did not move. The rain thickened for a moment, as though a wave had passed through the storm. My pulse slowed, not from fear, but from a kind of waiting calm, the strange patience that the house seemed to teach. And then I heard it, a knock, soft, careful, not at the door, but from somewhere within the walls. 3 times, evenly spaced. The kind of knock meant not to alarm, but to signal. I closed my eyes. The rain pressed closer, louder, as though to cover the sound, and yet the knock remained, repeating with long pauses between, not asking to be answered, simply reminding me it was there. I rose and walked to the hallway. The shadows bent with me, stretching longer than they should, sliding gently along the walls. I followed the sound of the knock, though it moved each time I came near, first above me, then behind, then at the far end of the corridor. The house was not guiding me to a place. It was guiding me to understanding. I stopped in the center of the hall and listened. The knock ceased. The boards beneath my feet stilled. The rain filled the silence, endlessly patient, endlessly soft. And in that stillness, I finally heard what lay beneath the rain, breathing. Not one voice, not one chest rising and falling, but many, gentle, steady, in rhythm with the storm. The entire house inhaled and exhaled, its beams expanding, its walls shivering faintly. Each breath carried memories, the attic, the shadows, the hands pressed softly against the unseen. It was not a house that creaked. It was a house that lived, and it had been listening to me all along. I placed my hand against the nearest wall. It was cool, damp, alive. The faintest vibration moved beneath my palm, the echo of a heart that was not mine. The rain pulsed in time with it, slower now, heavier, as though sinking into the soil itself. My eyes closed, and I let the rhythm carry me. No voices spoke, no shapes moved, only the steady presence of something vast and quiet, watching through the walls, breathing through the wood, patient as the rain. I returned to my chair and sat down. The house did not follow. It did not need to. The storm whispered against the window. The floor hummed faintly beneath my feet, and I drifted with the rhythm, deeper, softer, into the calm. The house was awake. The house was listening, and I no longer minded.